Today's theme is dads, like actual dads. It's not like some lewd reference. Hey dad, can I buy this toy? No, you gotta save your orbs. Olivia is not a daddy. Micaiah is not a daddy. Wait, Hawkeye's a dad? Who? We got this daddy as well. I guess I'm a dad now. That's not a daddy. Does Ike count as Soren's daddy? Not a daddy, unless it's a trap. Is that a trap? Let's ask Admiral Akbar. Tonight's theme is gonna be daddies. And I'm not taking the subjective ones. So just because Ephraim is your daddy doesn't mean that he's actually a daddy in the Fire Emblem series. I want an actual daddy, like real daddies. I think I'll start with Arvis. Since he's the sole unique user of Recover Ring, he ends up being super supportive, really cool support unit. With Valflame, with a double ploy, and he's actually playing all stats. So attack, res, speed, and defense. Fury is really good because it gives him that extra res. Like as a budget option, you could actually use res 3 here, but Fury 3 is obviously optimal to give him stats and everything. Then Ardent Sacrifice is 10 HP for 10 HP every turn, and Moonbow is just extra damage. So overall, like, you know, it's a pretty standard build. Iceberg might be a little bit better though, just for bigger hits. Auto Squad says Fortress Res any good on Arvis? It could work. If you're running into other high res units to activate your ploys, Fortress Res could work. I think like Fortress Res is a pretty bad skill, but if anyone's going to use it, it's probably going to be Arvis. So I'm going to look at Adamo. Anyways, same idea here. Volflame supporting, and you seem to have kept Growing Flame. You probably want to change this to Iceberg or Moonbow. Quick Riposte is fine. His speed isn't that great, so he's going to get off those doubles, make him a little bit better as an enemy phase bait. Using Drawback instead of Ardent Sacrifice does have its cons though. He ends up having a little bit less support than the other Arvis that we saw. If Priam counts, and Om should count as a daddy because of Wall Heart. Nice. Chad would like to submit Akariss as a daddy. Okay, let's read. He is not a daddy. 3-star Odin, let's go. Nice. Stealing this build. Okay, let's look at the less angry version. Actually, not a troll build for once. I'm surprised. Swiss Pharaoh. Okay, bring his speed up to 37. He's got threat and speed, which is on his base kit, so obviously this is going to make it so he can probably avoid getting doubled. Interesting that you've chosen to take off close counter. Considering he is decent with bulk on the front line, like you could actually keep close counter, but I like what you're kind of thinking here. If his HP is greater than 50, then he can just like teleport around, and he doesn't get screwed over by trees. He's got the best mobility out of all the archers right now. I guess like cavalry archers have more mobility in terms of distance, but at least he's not affected by trees and he can teleport around. If he's under 50%, he's also got escape route running, so that's really cool. But since he's usually teleporting places, I feel like close counter actually would work better in the A slot, especially if you can give him like some defensive buffs, like drive defense or drive speed. Maybe he'd be really good with Falchion on the team. I think with Falchion he'd be pretty good. I actually like this refinement. I think it can open up some cool plays. Feels bad that you use Swiss Sparrow here. I just think that if you're gonna keep him in the front line, use him with a team that can provide him with defensive support, and he can like save units by teleporting to Kumi. Thanks, Duel. So many Hectors, guys. We have ourselves Bold Fighter. This is pretty disgusting, but Glimmer seems a little odd here because with Bold Fighter you reduce the cooldown by 2, and Glimmer's only 1 charge because of cooldown being accelerated. So why not change it to like Bonfire or Ignis? I think Ignis is better. Yeah, Ignis is better because you're gonna get your guaranteed follow-up. It's gonna proc Ignis 100% of the time. Threat and defense is interesting. I mean, it makes him hit harder. I'm guessing he's not on a armor team if you're using something like threat and defense. Quick Riposte on the Seal is fine. Gives them that enemy phase and player phase ability. But yeah, you definitely need to switch out Bold Glimmer or Ignis to make the build be a lot better. Guess we can compare it to Dirk. I think I pretty much use this exact same Hector. Copy paste. And a gamer says I'll switch that. What about Panic Play? He's a good user of Panic Play, sure. Yeah, so you don't really need to change anything here. One alternative build that I've considered on my Hector is running Bonfire with Quick Impulse. And if you do that, you do lose out on some defensive ability by not being able to run distant defense, but you get a turn 1 Bonfire, and then usually after the engagement, Berserk Armad's Wrath effect brings Bonfire down to 1 charge every other time anyways, so it ends up making sure you use Bonfire like every single engagement, which is 30 true damage every fight. With this great attack stat, really helps out a lot. So yeah, alternative build for anyone that's using Hector that isn't this: Bonfire, Quick Impulse. Assuming you don't have Bolt Fighter. Alright, obviously best dad. I mean, okay. That's some infantry pulse synergy. Solid build, but my recommendation here is going to be Moonbow to secure kills with Lancebreaker. That's my biggest suggestion, especially since Lancebreaker is probably going to be using someone like Effie, and Moonbow ends up cutting a lot of her defenses. That's pretty much it. Maybe refine it to like speed or defense. That's pretty much the best improvements you're gonna make on him on a base kit. He's a very beautiful man, very beautiful dad. When I'm a dad, I basically want to walk around like this all day. Failed for Life asks, what are your thoughts on Emblem Heroes Robin's expiration versus LB plus refined? Both have pros and cons, not one is objectively better. The Lightning Breath Refined version has less attack, but it does have the ability to add extra HP and extra stats, which is pretty useful. So if the unit already has really high base attack, in the case of Robin, the extra stats could help you, especially if you wanted to like refine for res, which he unfortunately lacks in, or like defense, just to make him even tankier. It could work, but it is more expensive and not something that's gonna work all the time. I just think you should just keep the expiration skill. And there's a daddy with a shirt on. You got the double dis in defense, and I think this is the best case scenario you're going to use out of Xander. He's likely to get doubled, so Bonfire Quick Riposte works. And in the A slot, the budget option is Fury, that's what I use, but honestly dis in defense works better than Fury because when you proc Bonfire, it gives you the exact amount of attack that dis in defense gives you with a Bonfire proc, and the extra speed might end up hurting you, that you actually avoid a double after a Honed Cavalry, and that's not that good. So dis in defense gives you just as much damage as Fury does, gives you less residual damage, which could bring you out of quick riposte range, and it gives you extra decent bulk. Okay, let's look at Sugar Daddy. What an amazing daddy. I hope that one day I can have that sort of mustache. Lancebreaker is a good choice, especially with Slaying Hammer. I don't think you need it though. The only real like armors you run into with Lance are Effie and occasionally Wendy and what is it, Winter Robin. But I think with color advantage and like effective damage, you probably don't need the double and you should just one-shot him anyways. So if you want to widen out his matchups, Axebreaker does a lot of work here. So you can take care of Amelia, Hector, both Hectors of course, and Winter Crom and Winter Lisa, I guess. So those will widen up his matchups a little bit better. I guess Harden is now also on the Blue Lance list, but I don't think he's worth running Lancebreaker. I still think you'd be able to one-shot him with a Hone attack buff. Barcher actually has like great attack stat. So yeah, I think just with Axebreaker here, you do a little bit more work. Glimmer's fine. You could also use Moonbow, but I think Glimmer works better. Okay, we got an Elwood. Yeah, I've seen this a lot, where you use Swordbreaker is basically to guarantee doubles against the really speedy units, and you probably have enough after a Honed Cavalry to avoid doubles from a lot of units. So this is great. The attack seal is smart with Fury, obviously just to guarantee the Blazing Durandal procs, because it's all based on attack difference. With a Honed Cavalry, you should be able to get Blazing Durandal active after every single engagement. Now, Iceberg is also smart with Blazing Durandal. You basically fight, and it should be ready either next turn if you don't double, but if you do double due to Swordbreaker, you'll get it off that turn. But I think Draconic Aura here actually does more damage. Yeah, Draconic Aura is mathematically more damage than Iceberg would be. If you just calculate it here. If you take 60 and then take 30% of 60, you end up with 18, whereas Iceberg is 17. If you get a Honed Cavalry and a Fort Cavalry though, then Iceberg might be a little bit better. So 19, but if you end up with 41 res after Fortify Cavalry, then Iceberg is 1 point more damage than Draconic Aura. So that's the difference there. Iceberg is only better if you have Fortify Cavalry running. I haven't looked at a Corrin in a long time. Somebody actually built up Corrin? 7 Pity Breaker Corrins. He's a pretty good user of Infantry Pulse. He's got a HP threshold that's better than most units. He's not the highest, but he's definitely decent enough to be using it. All these skills here give you good arena points other than Fury and Desperation. Ideally, you do want to change those if you're aiming for arena points, if he's on your main arena team. Yato instead of Refined Slaying Edge. That's actually so funny. If he uses a Refined Slaying Edge, he gets 3 speed on both phases, plus extra HP and cooldown reduction. It's funny how that's so sad for his weapon. If they make Omega Yato, I think it's going to end up having like +4 to all stats or something. He is a good user of Fury Desperation though, all things considered, because Yato does give you extra speed, so he ends up with 45 speed. Fury helps you get into Desperation range, Infantry Pulse helps out for supporting the team with his decent health. Heavy Blade is an interesting choice as well. In my opinion, though, it doesn't really work unless he gets Hone Attack, though. 53 attack isn't that high. So be careful here. You do need support to make sure Heavy Blade works. If you do get it to work, though, you do charge Aether every 2 fights or so, assuming you get doubles. Brandon just says, Akariss, I'm sorry, I don't see the current unit. All I see is 7,000 feathers. He's going to be amazing with the refined Yato, though, to be totally serious with you guys. And this build is actually pretty good. Thanks for showing me it. I don't actually think he's not viable. I didn't say that. I think he's totally a usable unit, considering he's in a sea of red swords, though. And it's funny because Celica that just came out today has like +4 to all stats, including the speed on both phases, +3 defense. And then we're looking at this Cobcorn for a sword that's fallen behind so far in the meta. All right, now the true daddy. True Lance Breaker daddy. Lance Breaker Arena Assault counter, boys. If you do end up baiting on enemy phase, though, I recommend switching out Rising Light to Moonbow if you can. Yeah, to secure more kills here, just with a lot of these like Arena Assault units, Killer Axe should be a 3-charger. You could use Bonfire or Iceberg then. Everything else is fine. I mean, if you do end up player phasing, he's going to secure more kills for sure. But if you do end up enemy phasing, his attack stat's pretty low. So that's where the weakness comes in. What a hot guy. Perfect daddy right here. You know what? Even as a 1-star level 40, the funny part is Obstruct is always useful. If you guys haven't seen my Wendy clear of Xander on Infernal with 2 level 1 FEs, Wendy and Sheena, Obstruct was the MVP, boys. Perfect expert, perfect daddy. Yep. That's what I think. But yeah, even as funny as it is, Obstruct actually could see usage on a level 1 unit, like a 1-star unit. I'm Shiro's daddy. It's funny for me to say this, but 53 attack isn't even that high anymore for a Heavy Blade. I know it's sad. So your Ryoma here is going to need some attack support to activate Heavy Blade more consistently. If you do end up using Heavy Blade, though, I recommend a 3-charge special, not a 2-charge special. That way you can, if you do double other units, then you'll hit it more often. Especially if you're using Wrath. Wait, if you're using Wrath, then you definitely should be using like a 3-charge or a 4-charge special. Yeah, definitely change the special over to a higher charge special if you're going to use Wrath. And you'll need some attacks, like some sort of attack support, home attack, attack tactic, or whatnot, to make sure his attack is high enough to consistently use Heavy Blade. I remember when Ryoma's top tier. He's still really good, actually. This one seems like a pretty good user of Bonfire, actually, since he's plus defense. This one, like, yeah, for sure. Bonfire is going to do more damage than Draconic Core here. Unless you really are getting, like, attack tactic, then Draconic Core would be better. If he switches out Heavy Blade for something else, though, like Speed 3 Seal, then he should keep Moonbow. Speed 3 Seal would be a good substitute for Heavy Blade here. You have to rely on, like, your special damage, because his speed stat is pretty bad here. Marion asks, but how does Wrath affect that? Because if you're using Moonbow and it goes down to 1 charge special, and you're using Heavy Blade Seal, you're wasting special charge. Like, it's not charging. You end up hitting something, and one goes to ready and does nothing. So if you use something like Ignis instead, you bring Ignis from 4 to 3, hit with Heavy Blade, bring it to 1, and then when they hit you, it's ready, and you just blow them up again on a double. Assuming you can double. He needs a lot of support to make it work. Alright, the classic daddy. Interesting usage of Fury 3, actually. I thought for sure close defense would have been fine on the ace slot here. Although, interestingly enough, with Speed Smoke, especially if you bait out a unit, and maybe hit something besides 1 unit with Speed Smoke, you could end up doubling a lot of things with this Sigurd, which I think is actually really impressive. But yeah, I think this is actually a pretty unique build. I hope you run him with a healer, though, just to keep him topped off, because he actually doesn't have that high HP. Good daddy, though. Okay, guys, obviously the best daddy here is this guy. Wow. +7 Niles. Player phase Niles, though. I think this could actually work for once. I think he might be a good user of Speed Boy if you wanted to run a player phase Niles. It's not bad. It's actually not too bad. He actually has like pretty good offensive stats on player phase. And the attack seal here works pretty good. You could also sub it for the speed seal, but speed play would be pretty cool here. Defense play isn't bad either. Yeah, this is a solid build. For a player phase Niles, I think this is really smart. Let's see what sort of love you gave him. QR2, Dagger Breaker, obviously for Ursula's Grand Hero Battle. Good choices in skill inheritance, actually. Well done. I like this a lot. Awesome player phase, Niles. I didn't think it could be possible. Like I didn't think he'd be that good as player phase, but that looks like a pretty solid player phase build. Favoritism, Kappa clap. No. When was the last time you saw Niles on this stream? Okay, Vegeta's daddy over here. I thought this was gonna be a troll, but this isn't actually a troll. This can work. Azama's pretty cool. I love the Fortress Res, Fortress Defense stuff. That's so funny. I mean, you don't need attack when you're using Pain, right? Seth was killed for this. Hey man, this is probably pretty good in an auto battle like Tempest Trials, not gonna lie. Rip Lucas? No, that's probably Seth. Unless he killed a 5-star Lucas for a 3-star Azama. I don't think so. That's probably a Seth. Nice build, Vegeta. It's a solid build. I mean, he's definitely one of the better users of Brave Sword. It's funny because his daughter beats him at his own role. Chrom is pretty good at this too. But this is more available, like Laszlo comes at 3-star, so as like availability wise, you can build up like a +10 Laszlo much easier than you could either of those options, and he could still do it pretty well. Arion says, isn't DB always better than Fury on slow Brave builds? I kind of agree, for most part. If you were trying to go for like a slam him twice and kill him situation, then Death Blow 3 is better, and like the Fury giving you extra speed doesn't actually help much here. But Fury does give you decent, like it does increase his bulk slightly, which probably doesn't matter, so maybe he's just using Fury because he didn't have Death Blow 3. That's my guess here. Everything else is fine. I mean, Attack Seal works really well with Brave Sword, that's a given. Aether is interesting, but I'm guessing maybe that's for arena points or something. Hey, we got a Chrom here. Not Final Ninja's Chrom. We have another Chrom. This Chrom. You're using him kind of the same way as a lot of the other Lancebreaker daddies I saw. Like Hawkeye and stuff. Maybe it was Xander as well that I saw. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I saw like Xander and Hawkeye with Lancebreakers tonight. What you want to do is just probably use a 2-charge special instead of 3-charge because you're using Caradax. Because you might miss some kills on Lance units, especially like Effie who has extremely high attack, where Moonbow ends up cutting that. Especially now with Harden also being released, you may really need that Moonbow to secure kills. Same kind of advice I've given most people. With Triangle Advantage, you're only at 60 times 2 damage. And Effie should survive that. When your daddy dresses up with a bunny suit, you know that guy's serious. Okay, we got this daddy is. Oh, I like this build. It's pretty good. You got synergy between Brazen Attack, Speed, and Vantage. If you do end up getting enemy phased, Tannin Boom works really well. And you can even set it up with Reciprocal Aid. I already checked out like 3 Barchers tonight already. I like what you're doing with the build. It's enemy phase oriented, which is really smart. You're not trying to mix between 2 things, and you can set up with Reciprocal Aid. I guess I'm a dad now. There's best daddy for you guys. I'm sure most of you already know whose daddy this is. We looked at another Hector earlier in tonight's unit review session, and I did mention that Ignis Bold Fighter was the way to go. So obviously this daddy knows what's up. And you have both enemy phase through Quick Riposte and player phase through Bold Fighter. So it's pretty disgusting. Best daddy, boys. M Orphan Girl. No daddy here. Nice daddy. Amazing daddy. With bonds, like Falchion bonds, Water Blessing, and probably ally support, you end up having a pretty good amount of speed. 32, 35. I guess you use her with Brave Lucina as well, so maybe that's like 38 speed maybe. So with Chill's speed, you could actually bring like an Ira down to the level of Chrom in terms of speed, and you get that double for sure with Quick Riposte. So that's kind of interesting. And then she does less damage because of Regnal Astra, because you lowered her speed. It's still pretty cool though. I like the thought behind the build. They can make like a slow unit compete with the fast unit by using the new chill speed skill. This is basically like the chilling seal unique ability that Gunther has, but it only targets speed for 7. There's probably in the future going to be something like chill attack. There's probably going to be chill res, chill defense. I could see those being really. Could you imagine like what you're going to get out of like chill attack? And make everybody like hit like wet noodles. Guard isn't 240. Yeah, I mean that's the difference, right? So if you run distant counter, then yeah, you don't get max arena score, unless I change guard to something like renewal, or escape route, or something. Wings of Mercy, all those options as well. I think we're out of daddies, boys. Okay, we'll look at the King of Justice then. I mean, Fortress Res. What? What the heck? Okay, he does what he needs to, right? Emerald Axe, Lancebreaker, it's Triangle Advantage, basically TA. You can probably secure skills a little bit better by using the same advice I've given everybody by using a Lancebreaker, which is just Limbo. But I guess you don't like him enough to change his base kit. Cool daddy. Promenator with a hammer? What? Why is this only a regular hammer? You benched him to give him a regular hammer? Oh, come on. This is what the armor meta has done to us, guys. You take a perfectly cool unit. I want this guy, by the way, because I like Crom. And then you give him a regular hammer and Lancebreaker 1. I know what you're trying to do, like, which is counter those armor units, but it feels bad. I'm just gonna compare it to this one. Yeah, it's like his base kit, I guess. I don't like the combination of Brazen Attack and Warrior Fighter. I've said this a few times, but basically, since there's only like a 30% threshold where this works, it doesn't work that well together, and you're better off just committing to one or the other. So basically, like Vantage with Brazen Attack Defense, or you could run Distant Counter with Warrior Fighter, just like a green Effie. Also, I think Bonfire does more damage than Draconic Aura, because if he's the one providing Hone Armor, then yeah, you're not the one receiving the attack buffs, right? Just commit to one or the other. His base kit's a little weird. That's what I recommend. I guess Grima can count as a daddy. That hand is way too big. Yeah, I know that Robin has a plus attack super boon, so he's really powerful. Close defense with Ignis and Vengeful Fighter is kind of disgusting. It works the same way as like Winter Tharja, where because she's slow, she gets doubled and gets that extra special charge to get off Ignis. So that's really powerful as an enemy phase bait. Problem is always, like what I mentioned before, is that he has way too many weaknesses. I think if you have choices in Arena Assault, he might be a really good unit. So yeah, I mean, like, the weaknesses, they don't matter if you choose him in a predictable run. So basically PvE content, like Chain Challenges, Tempest Trials, you're not going to run into those units all the time. Obviously in Arena Assault, you can choose when to use them, so the weaknesses don't matter. I think for a Seal, though, you could run another Close Defense, and then maybe he can even take a Falchion hit. That's probably the one thing you could change. He's going to really get wrecked by a lot of stuff, especially if he's on your main core team. All Falchion still kill him with CD6. Okay, that's pretty sad. I thought he would at least take a hit. I didn't do the math on it, but yeah, I guess that's pretty sad if he's using Close Defense 6 and still dying. And this is like one of the first few times I've ever seen a plus 10 5-star Laszlo. He's actually a pretty good user of Heavy Blade. His attack stat's pretty high. Fury Desperation also works. 40 speed with Laszlo? What? His Wodao Aether damage is gonna be pretty nuts. Wodao works fine with Aether. It's kind of like my Mia, where you get that extra healing, like true damage. He says he Summoner supported him. Okay, yeah, that's really awesome. Wind Blessing is kind of weird here. Was your choice intentional to give him like extra resistance on a team with Gunthra? Or is it just because you had extra blessings and just chose to give him that? Because I feel like the Water Blessing might be actually better here for the extra 3 speed. Minor preference though, not a big deal.